Assalamu alaikum, I'm Aisha and you're watching SAMAA News. Here are today's headlines. US President Donald Trump has warned that the recently announced ceasefire understanding with Iran is not yet final and could unravel if negotiations fail. Speaking at the G7 summit in France, Trump described the agreement as a memorandum of understanding and said the United States could resume military action if it is not satisfied with Iran's conduct. The remarks underscore the fragile nature of the emerging agreement, even as both sides continue efforts to move toward a formal peace deal.
A $300 billion private sector investment fund is part of a US-Iran framework agreement aimed at supporting reconstruction and incentivizing a final peace deal, a source told Reuters. The source said more than $150 billion has already been committed across energy, infrastructure, logistics, and manufacturing projects spanning 5 regions, with participation from companies in the US, Gulf states, Asia, and beyond. The fund, which contains no government money, would only become operational once a final agreement is signed and is separate from talks on sanctions relief and frozen Iranian assets. Meanwhile, Swiss authorities have said that the US-Iran Memorandum of Understanding will be formally signed at the Bergenstock resort on Friday. The location was proposed by the Pakistani and Qatari mediators. Swiss officials say Pakistan and Qatar helped broker the arrangement, with both sides expected to formalize the Memorandum of Understanding during the ceremony. President Donald Trump has said that all hell will rain down on Iran if the country tried to develop a nuclear weapon. Speaking at the G7 summit in France, Trump said that a new agreement with Iran guarantees Tehran will never obtain nukes, and any violation would bring severe consequences. His statement comes as US and Iranian officials prepare for detailed negotiations in Switzerland later this week. Earlier, talking to reporters, Trump said Washington plans to retrieve and destroy Iran's enriched uranium at an appropriate time. He said the United States was not interested in keeping the material, and that its destruction remains a key objective.
Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has said that negotiations between Iran and the United States will begin immediately after the signing of a proposed Memorandum of Understanding. Speaking to media in Tehran, Araghchi said both sides are moving into a structured dialogue phase following the initial framework agreement, adding that the talks would gradually expand to include broader regional and strategic issues. Araghchi also said regional developments, particularly in Lebanon, are closely linked to the agreement framework. He described Lebanon-related issues as interconnected with the broader negotiation process.
US President Donald Trump says newly announced agreement with Iran can withstand regional tensions, including a possible escalation between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon. Speaking at the G7 summit in France, Trump said the Iran deal would remain intact even if conflict expands in Lebanon, calling Hezbollah a minor war compared to Iran. He also criticized Israel's recent strike on Beirut, saying he didn't like it at all and had expressed his concerns directly to Israeli leadership. Trump praised Qatar for its role in mediating between Washington and Tehran, while confirming that the Strait of Hormuz is expected to be fully reopened soon. He also said the text of the agreement will be released publicly and read out in detail at a future press conference. The FBI says it has foiled a planned attack on a White House-hosted UFC event in Washington, taking 5 people into custody over an alleged drone and sniper plot, according to court documents. Authorities said the plan involved using explosive-laden drones to strike near the White House and then targeting fleeing attendees with sniper fire. Officials said the event went ahead without incident, with President Donald Trump and senior officials in attendance. Court filings allege the suspects were influenced by anti-government conspiracy theories. Charges include conspiracy to commit murder and weapons offenses, with investigations continuing.
Leaders of the G7 nations have called for a ceasefire in Lebanon and welcomed progress toward an interim agreement aimed at ending the conflict involving Iran. Meeting at the G7 summit in France, leaders also pledged to diversify global energy supply routes to reduce reliance on the Strait of Hormuz, a key artery for international oil shipments. The discussions come as details of a US-Iran ceasefire arrangements continue to emerge ahead of its expected formal announcement. G7 leaders have expressed cautious optimism about the prospects for peace in Ukraine, following what US President Donald Trump described as a very good meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on the sidelines of the summit in France. Trump said Russia should reach a peace agreement with Ukraine and pledged to do what he could to help end the conflict, now in its 5th year. European leaders welcomed the remarks, with Germany's Chancellor saying Trump's call for peace was an encouraging sign, although no specific new measures toward Moscow were announced.
G7 leaders say they remain united in support of Ukraine, reaffirming its territorial integrity and agreeing to increase pressure on Russia's war economy. In a joint statement, the leaders said they will strengthen sanctions, including measures targeting Russia's oil and gas sectors. The announcement came during a summit in Evian-les-Bains, France. The G7 also welcomed a US-Iran deal and said it is ready to support its implementation, while pledging efforts to diversify energy routes and reduce reliance on the Strait of Hormuz.
Lionel Messi delivered a stunning performance as Argentina defeated Algeria 3-0 in their World Cup group stage clash, scoring a remarkable hat-trick to equal the tournament's all-time scoring record. The 38-year-old Argentine captain matched Miroslav Klose's tally of 16 World Cup goals and became the oldest player ever to score a World Cup hat-trick. Messi's historic display has boosted Argentina's title defense and silenced questions about his impact on the world stage. That's all for now. For more updates, visit www.samaa.tv. Thank you for watching SAMAA News.